Okay, this is something a bit different. Obviously, I can't just have a YouTube channel, just interviews, because sometimes there's no one to interview. So I thought I'd try something different, see if you like it. Today I'm going to be talking about storytelling and albums. It's been something I've been thinking about for a little while, mainly after talking about His and Hers and reviewing that a few weeks back. If you read the album review, you'd have seen that I did talk a lot about the storytelling present in that album, and that was a big focus. And I actually had to cut down the review quite a bit to fit it in the Instagram caption. So I had a lot more to talk about with that. So this is one of two videos I could do. So the other one I've been thinking about making is talking about, just basically going into more detail about His and Hers, because there's so much you can talk about on that album. I could go on and on, as I am right now, but like even more. So that could be something to do in the future. But this one, I thought I'd just talk a bit about like, a wider idea of storytelling in albums, because I haven't really heard it. Like everyone talks about it a bit, and obviously there's a lot of talk about concept albums. What is a concept album? And everyone uses, maybe even overuses, the word concept album. No, that's not a word. The phrase concept album. So I'm going to be focusing more on storytelling, so I'm just going to ignore the idea of concept albums and just talk about storytelling in albums. The two albums I feel that really display this idea of storytelling throughout the album and really encapsulate the different kinds of storytelling you can have in an album are His and Hers by Pulp and The Glow Part 2 by The Microphones. Both very good albums, very different albums though, and listened to by kind of different groups of people. So if you've heard of one, you might not have listened to the other one as much, and vice versa. So talking a bit about how they tell their stories, and His and Hers, I've called it event-based storytelling. I originally called it conceptual storytelling, but that gets way too confused with concept albums way too quickly, and so event-based storytelling. And so what that is if you look at His and Hers, it's a collection of stories basically, but there's continuity with the stories. So if you look at the track list, it begins with Joyriders and it ends with David's Last Summer, and there is a clear change and a clear plot going from the beginning in Joyriders, which I've talked about in the review before, and starting out young, dumb, having fun, driving around on a Saturday night, smashing some stuff up, ending on David's Last Summer, which kind of, it does very well to close off the album, talking about, because it does have that happiness as well. It's not a really, really sad song. Well, it is a really, really sad song, but it's not just if you listen to the first few minutes of it, you'll be like, this is a happy song. And then once you listen to all of it, you're like, yeah, this is a sad song. And the sadness, it's sadder because you think it's happy to start off with. Yeah, David's Last Summer, by the end, he's begging for the summer, but also his youth to stay with him, and he doesn't want to move on. And it's quite bleak to end the album off. So those are two stories in themselves. David's Last Summer, though it's told through like reflection, some of it. So it's not a timeline, but it has a sense of growth and someone becoming from a teenager to an adult throughout the 11 tracks. But there are some ones where it's more clear about memories. So, Babies, he's kind of, some memories going back to it. Do you remember the first time? It's literally saying, do you remember? That's a memory. Do you remember memory? Yeah. But they're all self-contained, as it were. Lip Gloss, Acrylic Afternoons. They're self-contained stories and songs, but when you put them all together, you suddenly see, well, not suddenly, you see clearly see that there is an overarching story to be told there, and that's quite hard to do because it's probably, I don't know, it's hard to do it right, and they Pulp do it right here, because if you make them too separated and too self-contained, it's an album. It goes back to being an album. But you have tracks like "Do You Remember the First Time in Pink Glove?" They're together on the track list for a reason. Very connected stories. Probably the same storyline shared between them from slightly different points when he's talking about this old relationship where the person's moved on and he's kind of addressing them, but you don't know how much of it is just him thinking about saying these things to someone, and you don't know if he's in the right, if he's in the wrong, because it's so from his point of view, which it's very good at putting those questions in, and that's something I love as well. I'm talking about his and hers a lot, but what I'm trying to say is you have all these songs together, self-contained. They've got similarities, and while they are self-contained, the similarities, when they're put together, creates a plot that flows through the album from start to finish. And that's why I think it's definitely qualifies to be a storytelling album. I don't know. I'm not going to throw around the word concept album, because if you look at the list of concept albums, it is Wikipedia, to be fair, but still, there's a lot of albums when you're on there like, is that really telling a story from start to finish? It may be telling stories within it, but there's too many side points, there's too many like offshoots and things that aren't particularly relevant, and it doesn't flow from start to finish. So that's why I'm using the word storytelling albums. And so that is an example of event-based storytelling. It's events, they tell a story. I mean, what more do you want? Okay, and the second one, which contrasts with that, is The Glow Part 2 by The Microphones, everyone's favourite lo-fi indie album that everyone loves. I love it. I think it's really good. Some people I know really don't like it, but we won't talk about them, we'll talk about the album. And I have a lot less to say about this because A, everyone says everything about it already, and B, I mean, it's a bit more clear. So this model for storytelling is direct storytelling, or the direct model, and so it's got a relatively clear like plot, and so in this one it's all connected, and you follow the track list through, and the end of one track is the start of another track, is the end of one track, and the plot is a straight line throughout. It has some deviations as he thinks, notably when he imagines himself as a tree, as we all do. I'm sure we've all done before. It's just a normal thing to do, but generally it follows the track, the plot of going from this breakup, then moving forward, then going off on said adventure, and then it continues it on and so forth, and I'm not going to spoil it because that won't be fun. Please listen to this album if you haven't. I know a lot of people haven't, so if you're a fan of The Glow Pot 2 and you're like, how can you not have listened to The Glow Pot 2? It's very easy to do. A lot of people haven't. So this model is, I was going to say earlier, it's simpler and more common, but actually it's very hard to have a whole album where there's a consistent story but just boom 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 boom, and each track kind of loses its individual. That sounds like a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, but it kind of does lose its kind of individualism because it becomes part of this great overarching storyline. And that is a good thing, because it's actually very hard to do, because you'd write something and be like, this won't fit in with my story, so you have to think about it as a whole massive album from the very start when you start writing and recording it, and that can be quite hard to do. So, but it's a lot easier to spot, and for both of them, so that's the kind of differences. Direct storytelling, The Glow Pot 2, his and hers, event-based storytelling. And the similarities that really show the storytelling is it has to have a consistent pretty consistent unless the changes are part of the story. Consistent, like, style, sound, you know, maybe line up. I don't know. It's got to have continuity throughout the album, and yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. Really, I don't have much to say. I have definitely dragged on in this because you could say it in I could have said this in a minute or two, but I like to really drag out stuff. So I think I'm probably gonna finish very shortly, maybe even now. I don't really have much else to say. I don't really like doing the whole like and subscribe thing because I know you've all subscribed just because I plugged it a lot. So no one's listening to this that doesn't know what's up. But if you are, no, you're not. But if no, I don't know how to end videos because I feel like I should conclude. In conclusion, there's a lot more kinds of storytelling out there. I'm sure, but I haven't mentioned a lot more albums that do this. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be some more. But I don't really want to go on and on. Oh wait, I have. But just generally, there's a lot more, and hopefully I'll have people recommending me other storytelling albums. That'll be fun. So if you're somehow still watching me drone on, no, basically listening. If you're still on the video, please comment below. If you do have any other albums, because I really like listening to these storytelling albums. I thought it was quite fun. Like getting properly stuck into one where you listen to it from start to finish and like you just over and over because it's so like well done. Also, if there's any other kinds of storytelling, because I'm sure there's more than two, I'm sure. But these are ones I picked out so far that kind of makes sense. So, yeah, thanks for watching this video. I really hope it didn't suck, but I'm not confident. Bye.